They started offering different benefits. We started increasing pay. They started doing more employee outings like once a month, and then all of a sudden we have all these resumes piling in.
Welcome to the In the Arena podcast. My name is Jared Miguez, a co-host on this podcast that brings you the inspiring stories of our clients who are leaders and innovators across different industries in Southeast Louisiana. They are visionary entrepreneurs, savvy real estate professionals, media creators, military business owners, and community champions. And we are going to showcase the remarkable achievements and share their personal stories. Tune in for insightful conversations, valuable lessons, and motivational stories that are going to reveal their secrets to success and offer you insights to help you on your own path. Welcome to In the Arena podcast. Josh, welcome to the In the Arena podcast, buddy.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome, buddy. And you know, we've been kind of talking a little bit before we got started, and I think that one of the coolest things is, I don't know if you remember the conversation as well as I do, but the first day that we met, I just asked to sit down and have a conversation with you about real estate property management, just to get just put a bug in your ear and get to know you a little bit. Met you, met your kids. Mm-hmm. That was 8 years ago.
Got a kid here today.
That was 8 years ago.
Wow. 8 years ago, man.
Time is flying by.
I know.
You're so old.
I know. I was 27
Baby.
when we met.
Dang. So I was 31, 32.
Yeah.
Trying not to age myself.
But I think it's great to
We're the same
kind of
age.
see where you've come and transitioned, and me being a real estate attorney, having Lauren being a business attorney, this is going to be a unique conversation for our audience to see somebody who has started out growing a successful real estate business, transition into acquiring businesses, and still having a little bit of hand in both. And so instead of you kind of giving your life story, because it can kind of get long-winded when we have people do that. So, I mean, just based on from what I know about you, and we can kind of get into the nuances of it. But, you first got started, you and your family started a property management company, and the mindset was y'all were saying, okay, we want to learn how to manage properties, and that was going to be our angle to get in the game. And as we learn, we're going to start acquiring some real estate and offset other people's properties we're managing with ours. From what I know, you had 300 or so doors that you were managing for other people, and you started slowly offloading those to where you had, what, 200?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, about 200.
Yeah, 200 doors. And then you grew that business, were successful. You had a coaching program, that I was involved in, my brother was involved in, which was great. Got to do some trips with that, meet some great people from across the country, really.
Yeah.
You like a good trip?
Yeah, it was fun. And then
That beach was nice.
it was nice, yeah. And then you transitioned out. You sold most of your portfolio, and we've handled a lot of those transactions. So we've got that was my whole career been doing real estate deals with you, and now you're buying property. So I think I would like to start from the beginning, and how much of the first business you started, which is the property management company, which still exists.
Yep.
How much of it was on the job training that you and your family learned?
It was all on the job training. I mean, when I first got started in property management, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I worked for a property manager actually for a year before I decided to pull the plug and go do it myself. So I basically worked under someone else and learned it and understood it. And I was like, man, I could do this myself, And I knew technology, and he wasn't utilizing any technology at the time. So, technology, operating systems, all that fun stuff,
Buzz phrase.
So I started doing it on my own. I walked out. I remember, walking into, to my rental at the time saying, man, I'm going to go do this myself.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And, it's been, 15 years, 16 years, something like that now. So, and that company has gotten me to where I am today. That's the baby, So that company has literally fed my kids, bought multiple homes, all my vehicle, everything, that has fueled my lifestyle up until this point, and then allowed me to make all these investments, that I've done along the way. So, like I said, we still have it till to this day.
Yeah. So when people want to get into real estate, I feel like a lot of people will jump into being a real estate agent, thinking that I'm going to go be a realtor and I'm going to sell residential homes and learn how to be a real estate investor. Farthest from the truth. You learn basic nuances about the process, but you're not going to learn how to actually analyze a deal, do a deal, the practical aspects of it. Some people will go and do wholesaling, which are people who don't want to get their license. But you took a different angle, which I think is the hardest part from what I can tell of being a real estate investor. We have our own properties that we operate in, so managing properties that we're not there.
Good riddance.
Yeah. So, but how much of the real estate game did you learn? How much of an advantage did you have because you got to see how to deal with the more complicated end of it?
Yeah, so I mean, in the property management side, you're learning how to evict people. Unfortunately, you're learning how to collect rent. You're learning all the all the bullshit excuses that happen when someone can't pay their rent, unfortunately. You know, I mean, I remember I had this one particular tenant where it was every single month, like a new family member died. And, you know, and, you know, it's just unfortunate, but like you learn, you become numb to it, you know, it's just business at the time, you know? So, you know, you learn about all that. I learned how to paint properties, learn how to cut grass, I learned how to, you know, handle make-readies, how to handle punch lists, you know, deal with different vendors. I actually got a crash course in like being a contractor. I'm not we're a licensed home improvement contractor. But you know, I got a crash course on how to be a contractor and how to negotiate terms. And, you know, like, you know, now, like when a tenant would call and they would say, oh, my air conditioner's not working. You know, old Josh would have been like, okay, well, let me just call the air condition guy versus like now, you know, we're like, okay, have you checked the batteries in the thermostat? Have you went upstairs? Have you checked in the attic to see if the float switch has been tripped? Like all these little things. Or like, say, for instance, if, you know, they're like, oh, I have a spot on my ceiling. I don't know where it's coming from. And I'm like, okay, is it raining outside? No, it's not raining. Okay, well, we know it's not the roof. Yeah. So let's check the water heater. We're going to check the, you know, the AC.
Pan on the AC.
Right, that's it. Overflow pan, you know? So those things I didn't know coming into this. And like after, you just get like a crash course in that education. And it's been invaluable for me, so.
I think the beauty behind that, I would summarize everything that you just said as a cost of doing business.
Yes.
And that's what I think people miss when they're underwriting any business that they're going into, is not truly understanding those unexpected costs that are coming through, right?
Oh yeah, that's huge. I mean, when it comes to cost, you know, when you're actually, you know, managing real estate, oh my God, you can like lose your shirt, you know? And we did. I've had many months where, you know, where like we didn't expect the AC to go out, or we didn't expect the hot water heater to bust on the attic, you know, and flood the whole place, you know? So, but also too, I'll say that, you know, I think there's a lot of misconceptions too when it comes to like investing in real estate, where I think a lot of people think it's easy, and it's really not. It's extremely hard, extremely difficult. I've had a lot of growing pains over the years. But I think one thing people can do is that if you are, you know, if you wanted to get in real estate and you want to invest in rental properties, there's so many different avenues that you can take to do it. But I also think that you need to like put in some sweat equity. You know, you can't just go and buy a property and think that all of a sudden you're going to cash flow $1,000 a month and you're never going to have a problem ever.
Especially right now.
Right. Exactly. Interest rates are extremely high and tenants occupancy is low. And, you know,
which is my point with the property management company. I mean, how much can you credit the fact that you got to take that part of the business and learn that side of it, managing other people's properties or working for somebody else, and then be able to then jump into the real estate game instead of doing it from the other side?
I got paid to learn.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So I was literally learning myself while I was, I mean, it's unfortunate, while I was managing other people's properties. Yeah. But I embraced it, and I learned, you know, a lot. And I think, you know, that's what has allowed us, and our company has been so successful. We've been in business now, I think now almost 16 years, you know, I mean, that's, for a business to last that long, like that's really good, you know? So most companies fail within the first 5 years, if not the first year, you know? So, I had a company I bought in Miami, man. I bought that company, spent like $1.9 million and lost $1 million like in a matter of 24 hours. And, you know, but that's the cost of doing business. Yeah. You know, it's the cost of taking risks, taking swings. And, you know, those things are going to happen. But you know, and I'll say the one thing I learned from that, the one thing I did learn from that is that due diligence is so key. So when you're investing in real estate.
One more time. Say it one more time for people in the back.
Due diligence is key. It is like, that is the ultimate you know, learning tool. Like, you know, if you're going to skimp on anything, don't skimp on due diligence.
And that's the first thing people want to skimp on, because it's time, right?
It's time, and then also they get enamored by the deal.
Correct. That's any serial entrepreneur. They are jumping in head first. They don't even care if they still have their shoes on. They're so excited. And look, I love them. I work with all of them. Those are my favorite clients, right? I get it, because I have that element to my own personality. But it's like, I promise you are not going to lose this deal. I promise delaying this for me to gather this information is not going to cause you to miss out on this opportunity. And if it does, you're welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
You're welcome.
It was meant, that's how it was supposed to go. And I believe 100% everything happens for a reason. And I will get in maybe to that story later of why that deal, I think, propelled me even further to where I am now. But, you know, I think that people just need to take a pause, take a second, and relax and do your proper due diligence, whether you're buying real estate or you're buying businesses. And then from there, just, you know, make sure that you're not skimping out. You're just taking your time. You're going through the numbers. You're looking through P&Ls. You're looking through balance sheets. You're looking at your real estate. You're doing your inspections. You're doing all those things. And if you find something, anything that are red flags, make sure you actually address it and don't actually just try to, you know, push it on the rug and say, I'll get to it later, because later comes and it's usually not the best time when it happens.
Later comes the price tag.
Absolutely.
Leader comes with the price.
Yes.
In small businesses, there will always be a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no one operates squeaky clean.
No.
That's not the benefit of having a small business. And as you humbly mentioned earlier, you're learning as you go. So you're going to see mistakes. You're going to see strange things on the balance sheet that don't make sense. You're going to see them living out of the company and not truly understanding valuation. So super
Vacations
important.
to Mexico on the P&L, you know, like that's just that's what you deal with today, you know.
So before we transition to the business side, would you do it again? And what I mean by that is, would you go the property management route to get into to learn the real estate business?
100%. I don't regret anything that I've done. Again, everything happens for a reason. And I remember back in the day, man, when I first got started in the property management game, I remember this guy, the first guy I asked, who was like my first client. And we managed a couple of properties for him at the time. And, I remember just jumping out there and like just, wanting to learn so bad. And I was willing to do anything. And I think, I think if somebody else is out there right now and they're thinking, okay, I want to get into the game or I want to get into real estate, I think you just need to be able to figure out a way to go get into the room. You know what I mean? Like go like say for instance, they can come and intern here, talk about getting a crash course in real estate and how to handle like complex problems. I mean, if I was young and like looking to get in real estate, I'd go work for a property manager. I'd go work for a title company. I'd go work for a real estate agent. Like I would just want to learn all those aspects because when you become an investor, like that is like your world. You know, you have title issues. And then on the flip side, when you become an experienced real estate investor, then you realize the power in hiring the right people. And, I think that's invaluable too, making sure you have the right team. Like I used to tell people all the time, make sure you got the great contract, make sure you got a great title attorney, make sure you got an incredible property manager, and make sure you got a great real estate agent. With those four right there, I mean, you are locked in. You will be able to set yourself up for success, when you're buying more property. So
I think you missed one, right? Your banker too.
The banker. I'm sorry. Yes, I need that.
You
can't grow without that.
The story that I know from you, and I think the first deal that you brought was to your banker, and he was like, "No, go back and try it again."
A guy that lives right here in St. Tammany Parish. I'm very good friends with him now, still to this day. And I still do deals with him till this day. He used to work at
Heritage.
What is it? He works at Heritage now. His name's John.
Yeah. Shout out John.
Yeah,
at
John.
Heritage.
Yep. And but I still work with him till this day. He's financed all my personal homes, financed all my real estate, and he's been a great asset for me. But if it wasn't for him, back in the day, early on, like giving me a 60% LTV loan and learning that process and not being over leveraged, I wouldn't be where I am today because I remember bringing him a deal and I think it was like I was asking for like 90% LTV and he's like, absolutely no way, you're nuts,
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah. And I know I've worked with John several times. He's a good dude.
He is.
But I always thought that's good. It's a good story because when we were doing real estate more, you would always talk about relationships, and I think that, like you said, and I was going to ask you that question. What relationships are important to a real estate investor? You got to have those relationships. We did a little bit of content the other day, and that was what I said. It's a team effort.
It is.
And as a real estate investor, you've got to be able to pull on all those different people to be able to help you in different scenarios. And if you aren't loyal, then you're going to have a hard time being able to solve problems. And the more deals you do, the more things you're going to run into.
Yep.
And having a good banker that you can call on, that trusts you, that's seen how you do business, and when you need something to happen dynamic, you can call and be like, hey, I need this to happen.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've had many complex deals, where we're up against the wall for something, whether we got we have a hard money loan or we got a private lender we got to pay off, and the local banks always come to the rescue, because they're willing to do the deal. They know you. It's all about trust. At the end of the day, I can't go to Chase Bank and say, hey, I'm Josh Wilson. Can you get me a loan for $1 million? Because I got to go pay off like 9 hard money lenders. I can go to Heritage Bank. I can go to a local Citizens Bank over here and say, hey, I'm Josh Wilson. You have a couple of my loans. We've done business together. I need to get this paid off. And you walk in. It's a handshake. They know you. They trust you. You paid back all their loans. And you get the deal done and they knock it out. You can't do that at the national level.
Yeah. So one other thing I want to talk about on the property management side. We've dealt with a lot of property managers, and I've talked to a lot of them. But one of the things that I haven't found anybody else to do like you've done is create the automated systems and the way that you've scaled that business. And talking about having the right team.
Yep.
When we've talked about your team a lot, because I don't, you say you don't operate that business.
No.
Right? You have operators that do that for you.
Yes.
But you have processes and procedures and standards you put in place for an operating system that you expect them to operate under, and there's automations within your system where things can happen without you having to necessarily be the one that does it. So How did you learn and implement those things?
That was more of just me pulling myself out of the business. So when I first got started, I was doing everything. I mean, I was handling the mail, I was handling the invoicing, the AR and AP, all that. And then once I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, I can start hiring people for these tasks. But here's the kicker: is that people think they can just throw somebody into a role and put money at them, and it's going to fix the problem. It doesn't fix the problem, because if they're not properly trained, then all they're going to be doing is leaning back on you, and you're just going to be doing all their work anyway. So what I found is,
you can just repeat all that again for the people in the back.
So what I found was, I was like, I need to be able to create a system so that when we do hire someone, like we have an SOP. So like, the standing operating procedures. And so this is how you do these things. And when these things arise, like this is how it gets done. And so we created like, we have like a manual, now essentially. And like, so every time there's a different task or, like for accounting, accounts payable, like we have a list every first of the month, like, all these bills get paid from these different GL accounts, and like, these owners get paid. And like, I mean, it's a long list. And so I would have never, like, there's no way we'd be able to scale, like if we didn't create that in the beginning. And so, and we still alter it now to this day. So like, as things change and like we take on new clients, and like as we add on more team members, things start getting delegated off to more people, and you change those SOPs, and so then you hire, you get bigger, and those things change. But without the standard operating procedures, and then also utilize automation. You were saying about automation. Love automation. Back in the day, what I try to do is I try to figure out ways to take the employees out of it as much as possible. So when I see them doing like a manual task, I'm like, okay, you're doing this manually over and over and over. How can we automate this? So like example would be like, at one point, we were scanning in all the mail. So mail will come into our office, we'd rip it all up, scan it in, and put it in. Now we have an office, virtual office, and all the mail comes there, and then they scan it in, and then it comes into our inbox. All invoices go to one email, all regular mail goes to the other. So now invoices are automatically scanned in, and then they get populated via our software, AppFolio, and there's AI technology involved. So it automatically scans the bills and finds the addresses, finds the account number, and plugs it in and attaches it to the property. Wow. So we don't actually have to do that anymore. So, that was a huge time saver.
Yeah, sure.
So, and we do that with maintenance. So like maintenance now, we have, text message automations where a tenant can text in, a maintenance request, and it looks up the phone number from where they're texting in to try to match the phone number on the profile of the tenant in AppFolio. So now that maintenance request will get rerouted to that particular property, and then it'll just go through the laundry list of questions of asking them what the issue is.
All these automations are who are you?
Some of them are ours, and some of them are just utilizing our software. Some of them are like we use some back end stuff. So like. We do for tenants that are late, we have a back-end texting feature that we use because AppFolio doesn't have that. So we have it now to where we have a report that gets sent from AppFolio to our back-end texting automation, to where it sends off on the 6th of every month, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Every month, there's a different sequence of text messages that come out based off of that tenant is late. So if that tenant is in like the eviction status, like they'll get a round of text. If that tenant is in the unpaid status, they'll get a round of text. So those are different automations like that we've created ourselves.
Yeah. And again, so my point asking this question is I feel like a lot of we're at this point, we have a lot of processes and procedures, and our staff follows those, and we have a lot of great people that do the tasks. One of the things that we're now trying to get our people to understand, our team, is to how to solve problems themselves, so that they're not relying on us every time to make those decisions or figuring out a solution to the problems. Yep. And because you get to a point where they're looking to you to find the solution to an issue.
Right. We were just talking about that a minute ago about you.
Yeah. So do you have did you train your staff to help with that kind of stuff, or are they still rely on you to do it?
No, I mean they don't rely on me at all. I maybe spend about 2 hours a week or so in that business. And that's just, I'm CC'd on emails and I'm reviewing things. And that's one thing I tell people too, like my team members, I'm like, if it does not directly involve me, where you're looking for me to take some type of action, do not send me an email. Like, I don't want to be on the CC. I don't want to know. Like, I trust you. And that's another thing too, trusting your team members that they're going to do the job. And look, you'll know at some point if they're not doing their job. You'll know because shit starts falling through the cracks. You get customer complaints, and that's when I take action, but I'm not a micromanager. So like, I trust my team and I trust the hires that I make to make sure that, they're doing their job. But I don't want to be CC because I'd be CC'd on every damn email, and it was too much. So now we just trust them. We train them properly. Now we're bigger, so like I'm talking now from the standpoint of like when I first started. Now the game's totally different for me. I'm more of a I wouldn't say a founder, but I'm more of like I'm in a whole different role now.
Yeah.
So
let's transition into some of these businesses you're doing now. And I think I feel like as you've kind of elevated yourself in your business and what you're doing to manage your day to day is what you're trying to do when it comes to new business. I heard somebody say this one time: buy businesses that you have no idea to operate, so that you don't find yourself trying to jump in and solve problems. Because at the end of the day, if you don't know how to operate it, you got to rely on other people to do the job and SOPs.
I like it.
That's for all the control freaks out there.
Yeah. I need to take the letter out of that book, and a page out of that book. But for you, when you're trying to decide a business that you're going to invest in, right? We talked a lot about due diligence, and when it comes to how we operate our business, so we are thinking about two things when we're looking for employees and looking to partner with people. It's the values align, and do they have the ability to do the job? Right. It's two different things that we're looking at. And so from a evaluation standpoint, I like to start with values. So whenever you're looking to invest in a business, how much of you is assessing whether the owners of that company, that business aligns with what you believe?
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really look at that. I'm looking at numbers. I'm an investor. I want to know what my return on capital is going to be and how I can pay back my investors. So values do play a part. Like our recent acquisition in Chicago, we just bought. We met with the owner. We spent a ton of time with her, probably a week. Over the time when we were like kind of dancing around this process of buying this company. We spent a lot of time together and we learned a lot about each other. But for the most part, like when I'm looking at a deal, I'm not so interested in what the seller's values were. I'm more interested in like how the actual culture is within the organization. And you can get a really good grasp of how that seller has been managing that business. And so when we acquire something, we're interviewing the employees. We're asking them certain questions. How long they've been there, what they like most about their job, what is one thing that they would change, if new management came in, like, what are their gripes, what are their concerns. But the other thing is you don't want to focus so much on the bad things because everybody at the employee level has some type of pain point or concern. And then that just can become like cancerous and it just gets out of hand, So we had one guy, we had a meeting in Chicago just recently, I remember, and we're up there, we're doing it was our trade-off, our takeoff meeting. Basically, we just took over. And I'm there, I'm speaking, giving my little speech, doing my thing. And I remember one guy, he would raise his hand. I didn't ask for questions, but he wanted to pop in and ask a question. And he was asking something, silly about, he wants to get his cell phone reimbursed or something. We got like 56 employees in this room, And I'm like, my COO at the time, she jumps in immediately and says, we'll talk about that later, But like, if you let that like fester and like answer that question at that time, like she tells me all the time, she's like, Josh, you got to be a politician. Like you got to just move on and direct, divert. And so, but you really do, because if you don't, like those little things like that will blow up within the organization and everybody will start asking then everybody's going to want their cell phone to be reimbursed. So, so what we did was, we pulled the guy aside, we talked to him, found out the pain point, really what it was. And, and I think at the end of the day, I think he just wanted like a charger or something for his car. So, and we took care of it. It was an easy fix, but those are like little things that, we try to control, in that environment. But yeah, we're looking at culture. I really want to make sure that the people are aligning with my team. And also too, we also have other companies. So, we also want them to align with our other companies, so like the great thing about us is that we have like over 156 employees in 4 or 5 states now. So we are, there's opportunities to where if you're working in Boston, there may be an opportunity in Chicago that comes up and you're like, man, I know that business. I can go help run Chicago over here by doing this. Oh, cool. So there's so many ways for them to advance that like when I first started this, I didn't even think of that. But now it's like we have all these different companies and we've had people bounce around, like move from company to company. Yeah. And it's been a great thing.
Well, at that point you've got to look at the culture if that's an opportunity and an option, because if the culture is not consistent across the different companies and the different locations, then ultimately they're not going to jive in one spot or the other.
Right. We're really big on, we're big on culture. We're big on making sure we're treating everyone like family. We're one big family. That's the way we see it. And we treat our employees very good. I overpay everyone. the one thing that I always tell people is I never want an employee to leave our company because they feel like they're not being compensated enough. And I don't ever.
Jared feels that way.
But it's true. But you create loyalty that way. If you're usually, most
to an extent, I think you got to be careful too, because you have very poor leaders that try to buy loyalty, and that will blow up in their face every single time.
100%. I agree. I think that if you have a bad organization, you have a bad culture, and like people tell me all the time, like we'll have a GM. Like just recently, we had a GM in one of our locations, and he's like, "Man, I can't. We're struggling to hire people," and I'm like, "Well, that's a culture problem." I'm like, I was like, if you have a great organization and you have great people and you're a great leader, then people are going to be wanting to come work for us. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, if we have shitty leadership and we're not paying people enough, we're not offering enough benefits, we're not offering, being competitive and having a great work-life balance and culture, I was like, nobody's going to want to come work for us. So. Yeah. And we did. So they made a pivot. They started offering different benefits. We started increasing pay. They started doing more employee outings like once a month, and then all of a sudden we have all these resumes piling in. Yeah. And people are leaving the competitors coming to work for us. Yeah. So we're literally pulling them away. And that's all it took,
Generally speaking, those people are going to be networking with other people that are looking for jobs, and your employees are going to start bringing on more employees for you.
That's it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it works for you. I mean, I feel like what you're describing is what I refer to in the due diligence period as the check for culture shock. Mm-hmm. Like I'm always saying, is it going to be a culture shock? And you have to determine whether the seller's staying in the business. Because oftentimes you have some kind of transition period, especially if it's a relationship-based business, where they're still going to be there. So it's not necessarily like, yes, from a value standpoint, if they're going to stay there. But if the seller's truly leaving the business, it's just whether there's going to be a culture shock for everybody that's involved. And that it is. It can be hard.
Sometimes
and I've seen some acquisitions really blow up on the back end when people weren't paying attention to it.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, when we're buying companies, we want to make sure that the top level management knows what's going on. I bought a company, my first one I bought in Orlando. Nobody knew that it was happening, and so like it was my first business. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, So I was like, oh, I can do this. I can schmooze them over. It's no big deal. I remember going in there. I mean, I was like in the parking lot, like the day of the acquisition, and like we have all these vans, all these employees. I think we have 20 employees at the time, and I remember walking in there, and I'm like, okay. Hi, I'm Josh Wilson. I'm the new owner, and everybody's just like looking at me like a deer in headlights, like what just happened? And that's when I realized, holy crap, like I will never ever buy another company ever again, and they do not know. So now at least what we do is when we have like a larger organization, we can usually handle. Most of those people aren't going to leave based off of like a top level management change. Yeah. But if owner change. But if you have like top level management and like those guys are gone. And then all of a sudden it goes down to like
you have no one to operate the company
to the members, and they're all gone. So now we make sure,
So what kind of, just from a technical standpoint, what are the things you're doing to test the culture? You said I kind of got to insinuate the fact that you're having conversations with the employees, right? So tell me some things.
Not a lot of them. So usually when you're in the DD phase, like sellers they're very
they're not going to allow you to be.
Yeah, they don't want you to get close. Because they don't want to scare anybody off either, So
in case
it's really limited, You're really just speaking with like the top level people, You're speaking with management, and you're just asking them like, hey, how do you like it here? Like, what is one thing, like if we take over, what is one thing you'd want to change? What do you believe on? Like, we'll ask like kind of difficult questions, like
how would you handle negative situations?
Correct.
Is a big one.
Yeah,
that one really tells you.
Absolutely. How would you handle negative situations? What would you do if like what do you do if a driver calls in sick? What are your priorities? What are your plans? Like, what are your priorities, et cetera? And then we get into like family and personal life. Like, how many kids do you have? Where do you live? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Yeah. Like, do you want to grow? Are you happy where you are? Because we want people that want to continue to grow and climb the ladder and like come work for us in other places. Because there's just going to be so many opportunities that we have available, and and so we're really get into the nitty gritty. With the management staff, not the employees, because again, we don't have access to those people. But the management staff, yes, we want to know like kind of how they're going to fit into our wheelhouse and how we operate. And we tell them off the bat, we're not micromanagers. Like we want you to do your job. We're going to give you your SOPs. We're going to make sure these are your benchmarks. Here's your KPIs. These are the things we want to hit. We have so that's another thing too. We have back-end accounting now. So we like do all our back-end accounting for all the companies on a global level. Which is pretty cool. It takes a lot of the pressure off of like the local accounting team. So, and we do that now virtually. So we have a lot of VAs and we have a CFO now, and so really helped out.
So from a value standpoint and the people, right? That's the first box, and I think that's the first step that I like to think about, or what I consider, and it might be my disc assessment coming out, but from the operation side, are y'all coming in and establishing new operating systems? Are you looking for businesses that have an operating system? Do you have one that you prefer? How does that work?
Yeah, so it just depends. So most companies we acquire, they don't have operating systems. Most of the companies we're putting software in place. We're doing our SOPs, doing the KPIs, bringing in our accounting systems, and that's pretty much it. Sorry, I'm like choking here on
Conversation's so good that he's choking.
Oh, you can edit this out, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
All right.
it's definitely not love.
Okay, good. I don't know if you want to re-ask the question again.
Yeah, just from an operating standpoint, like we loosely follow EOS, but like we have our own operating system that we've kind of adopted, and a lot of people know what that is because they've read the traction books and things like that. But I mean, it's really just a way of having a value system and having a goals, and then how you hold your team accountable and the system accountable. So I was just wondering if you had a way of coming in and building an operating system in these businesses that you're acquiring and helping them understand how to work more efficiently, or
Yeah, our biggest thing is, it's software. So we utilize a lot of third-party software. Like right now for our transportation companies, we use a company called Rougini, and then another transportation company we use we have NEMT, and then we have school transport. So one we use Routing Box, the other one we use Rougini. And so two different softwares, but they manage they manage our payroll, everything, all within those softwares. Mm-hmm. So that really does it for us.
I think the cool part about your story is it kind of transitioned from acquiring businesses or acquiring opportunities to acquiring talent. Like you really took a shift into identifying people that want to grow, that want to build, and noticing that you can pretty much place them in any industry.
Yeah. The crazy thing is, like, as I started getting into this, and doing, business acquisitions, I realized that, like, it's a people business. And when I first started, I didn't realize that at all. Like it was DIY Josh, I'd come in there and do it all myself. And then once I realized, I'm like, okay, we can actually grow. We just have to hire more people and get the right people in place. And so I think, hiring people and finding talent is like so underrated. I think people, they're looking at, acquiring a company and, they're thinking about all these automations and systems. And really at the end of the day, it's people. You get the good people in place, it makes your job way easier. Now, we're at a level now where we have we're at a global level and we have a full C-suite. And I never would have imagined we are where we are today, with the C-suite and all that. So
well, that's leadership, uncovering potential.
Mm-hmm. And on the C-suite level, how are you finding that talent? How are you identifying them? And they're operating your business. Your CEO?
Yep,
correct?
CEO, yep. And we have a CFO and we have a COO. And then we have a BDM too, which business development manager. So one of those guys, the BDM, we brought up from another company. He was a GM, so brought him up, and he does sales now for all the transportation companies and helps us out on acquisition takeovers. We have a COO who she manages all of our GMs at all of our locations, so that they report directly to her. And then our CFO, John, has his full accounting team for all of our different organizations for AP, AR, all that good stuff. So, and then there's me. I'm literally just trying to find the money, so I'm finding the money to get the deals.
Gotcha. So you're raising capital. So you're a lot of times I feel like, and maybe I'm just thinking about this. This is my limited scope, but a lot of CEOs are also helping generate a lot of the business too.
Yes.
But your business, your person who's marketing and is out generating business, he is managing other salespeople.
No, so. At some point that's coming. Like we already feel that's coming down the road. But right now what he does is he manages the contracts with the school systems, manages the contracts with the actual hospitals for our NEMT side. So he's running both of those. But at some point we're gonna have to change, and we're probably gonna have to hire more salespeople.
Yeah. So this just like, I know that we probably should have asked this question earlier. Where are your businesses located right now?
Boston, Chicago, Orlando, Lakeland, Florida. And then New Orleans.
So if somebody was looking to get into this buying and selling business game, where would they first start, and how do they find what industry that they kind of want to focus on?
That's the biggest question. Bizbuysell.com. It's like the MLS for businesses. Very simple and easy to do. You can go in there, but it's like it's like trying to chase a squirrel. Because there's like hundreds of thousands of businesses. Ask my son, he's here. He's done it already with me. He's gone and looked at businesses. My daughter's done the same thing. So you got to really get very clear on what it is you're really looking for. And one thing I also say is bigger is better. Most people they're looking at safety and security and trying to go buy a small deal because it's like, oh, it's safe. Like I can go buy $150,000 deal, but you're going to buy yourself a job, and if you're already working for somebody else, going to go buy yourself a job is not the answer because you're going to be working way more than you're working at your W-2.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is set your filters to where you're looking at deals that are, $1 million or above, because those deals right there are going to pop off 35% margins, $300,000, $350,000 a year in cash flow, where you can actually do something with and make a, after debt, you probably make a salary or pull a salary of like 150 or so a year, which is decent. And then if you really want to go big, then I would just go even higher than that and go for $1 million or more in cash flow. That's when you're getting with the big boys, and that's where you can really buy a business where you're not actually operating in the business, and you can hire and get great talent to run that company to where you can be a true owner and an investor and not an operator.
Gotcha.
And that's where we are now.
And from a capital standpoint, are you using institutional money? You have investors you're pulling on. Like how you structuring?
It's just
deals?
we use local, and so our social media presence is helps out a lot. Like doing podcasts like this, letting everybody know what we do and what we're looking for. We're always looking for investors. I have investors from all around the country that invest in our deals. And at the end of the day, when you do an SBA loan, you only need 10% down. So let's say, for instance, you're buying a $4 million. So SBA caps you at 5. So we just did our deal in Chicago. It's $3.5 million. We had to raise, I think we put up 150, and then we raised the other 200,000 from other investors.
Yeah.
So, that was it. Raised $200,000 from other investors on a deal that produces like 7 figures in cash flow. Yeah. You can't beat those. You can't beat those numbers. That for sure. Yeah, that definitely works. So
cool. And I know we're kind of running short on time, but one thing that I also want to point out is. We are very big here about using social media to help grow our business.
Yeah.
We set goals last year to put one video out every single day, just let people know who we are and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Helps a ton with our branding. We're doing this podcast to help promote who we are and the business that we operate with our partners, and it's been very successful so far. So how do you use social media and video for your businesses?
We use social media to raise capital, essentially. That's all we're doing. We're just trying to grow our brand, let people know what I do every day, what we do, what we're buying, how they can be involved, how they can actually benefit from being involved. And then also too, I try to personalize a little bit, like I want people to get an insight into what I do in my personal life with my kids, where I'm at personally. I try to do a lot of motivational posts to motivate people. Cause look, we've all been through the bullshit. You know what I mean? Like everybody has their own trials and tribulations that they're going through. It's just on social media, you get the highlight reel, So I try to be a little more humanizing where I'm like, I'm showing you my failures. I'm showing you my wins. And so people can relate to that. And hopefully, join us on our journey when they want to invest.
Cool. So as we wrap up, if someone wants to get in touch with Josh or follow Josh, how do they do that?
The Real Josh Wilson on Instagram, the Real Josh Wilson on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Snap, I do them all now, So just you can just look me up. I'm on there. Look for the little blue check, and I am the real one, So they're the fake
Slave
ones out
to
there.
the media.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. Well, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much. It was great.